half Viking, half god, sort of dead. You're listening to Ranking Rick Riordan, a podcast about Percy Jackson and the whole wide rest of the Riordanverse. I'm Dan.
I'm Olga.
And I'm Clara, and today we're discussing Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard, the Hammer of Thor.
And we pick up at Wellesley, Massachusetts.
An indictment of places like...
I feel like we need to do some sort of, Rick does this, but like some intro to like, how do you all feel when you go into Wellesley?
I don't. All right, so I'll say where we're at in the book. So we were on a plane, but after Magnus, Hearth, and Stoneblitz reach Alfheim, they're approached by two police elves who escort them to Hearth's horrible childhood home. So the policing of anyone who looks like they don't belong somewhere. Welcome to wealthy suburban towns in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
I grew up in Brookline, Mass. It is a streetcar suburb of Boston. So basically, it's like I grew up in the very like city urban part of it, but there is a part of Brookline that is very mansiony, very like picket fence, quaint, suburban, and wealthy. And, it's very white. And very, like, people looking through their lace curtains to see if anyone looks like they shouldn't be there and they look suspicious. And this is the case of many, many towns. And usually there are police incidents with, like, black and brown people. And, it's just something that we pretend doesn't happen here, but it does.
Yeah, I found Rick's, like, Magnus has uncomfortable, scary interactions with the police, and then points out like, and I know that the kids of color have it even worse. Like that was a good thing to point out. Yeah, Wellesley for me really is like an otherworldly sort of experience where I go and I'm just like, I am so out of place. It's like I was picked up and put into some parallel reality and I don't belong. Good for him for making this a setting, like a scary setting, because it is, as he points out, like idyllic. And I don't mean to really rag on, the
individual people who choose to live in Wellesley, there's nothing wrong with you, but don't be racist.
Your houses are very expensive.
No matter where you live, that's pretty
that's
good
true,
rule to live
but
by.
That's fair. Yeah. Good point. It's just like, I've heard horror. The thing is that it's like, this is a tourist attraction too. Like people come and they're like, I want to see the wealthy house. I want to see mansions. It's so different. And then it's like, if you don't look like you could belong there, you're going to get the police called on you. And depending on how you look and behave and whatever, and the threat you pose that isn't much of a threat, is just walking or taking a jog. Like it depends. The way they interact with you could be a lot worse. And you can't just blame the police. You have to blame the people who call the police as well. So it's just kind of like a very real thing that happens here. And just because we're a northern liberal state, we don't get a pass.
It's interesting because you guys were so focused on the Wellesley thing, and I was just thinking about Connecticut the entire time.
Yeah.
That's like the whole state, basically.
Yeah.
Except it's not the whole state, but
I know.
It's just, this is the thing of like, people like to see idyllic, educated New England. And it's like, it's not as idyllic for everyone.
Yeah.
And that's what this book is about, because it deals with the homelessness. It deals with, again, as we said, a lot of abuse and othering. And it's just like, it's not great for everyone just because we want to believe it is, just because we're kind of a blue state,
Yeah.
All right. So our gang is greeted by a servant named Inga and Hearth's father, Mr. Alderman. He reveals that Hearth's mother, Greta, died because Hearth ran away. She was so distressed by her country club friends bullying her over her evil son that she got hit by a car. This really paints a picture quickly of the kind of person Alderman is.
Yeah.
Keep going, because I want to talk about that with the Were-Guild and all together.
They ask to borrow the Skofnung stone, but Mr. Alderman says that Hearth must first pay his Were-Guild. Hearth's brother, Andiron, was killed by a monster, and Hearth was blamed for his death because he couldn't hear his brother being attacked. As a result, Hearth must pay a blood debt in which he must accumulate enough gold to completely cover the skin rug of the beast.
Yeah. So
didn't see this coming.
No.
It's very interesting because to compare this and this kind of abuse with the way that Meg was handled. Because in some ways, this is more like the way that it's done here is more like fairy tale, right? It's more like fantastical. But in other ways, I almost feel like it's more down to earth than with Meg. Because like the thing of like, I blame you for things that like have actually like hurt me, but I'm putting it on the wrong person and I'm using it on the wrong person. That's more relatable to me than having a father that's Nero, who's like just a total psychopath, sociopath. So I do think that like, I really did like the addition of like the mom died and I blame you for that too. And I blame you for your brother and all that stuff. And it's in this wrapper that's more fantastical, but it's
more relatable.
Yeah.
Well, and Rick, I'm saying, makes it, he makes the relationship literally transactional. That a parent would see their relationship with their child as a transaction of you give me this and then you don't owe me as much is like, I mean, it's terrible. It's awful. And it makes it so, I don't want to say so relatable, but
grounded.
It seems, more grounded and it's emotional abuse.
Yeah.
And it's not emotional abuse at the hands of a mass murderer.
Yeah.
So
it's very interesting.
It's just like there's levels of this. Like someone could relate to a parent is disappointed that their kid doesn't meet their expectations. And there's another level of like, why the wrong kid died, like the wrong kid died or the wrong kid has problems and preferring one child over another, which some kids can, resent their siblings through and it sounds like Hearth had a great relationship with Andiron, but like his parents probably pitted them against each other and just didn't rejected Hearth. Like they played together. That tells me that, and the fact that he leaves the rune for him, like I think that's not just like, I'm guilty, I'm still alive kind of thing. Yeah. And then you go further of the transactional relationship of like, after all the things I did for you, you do this to me. And that's, I think, something that especially as kids reach adulthood that we hear about with like difficult relationships with parents. So it's just like levels of relatability buried in fantasy.
Yeah.
And it's awful, but
it's one of these things of like, I've given you so much. I've given you everything. You need to pay me back.
Yeah.
And just the horror of that.
Yeah. I own your decisions basically because I paid for them.
Yes. Yeah. You can't leave because I gave you the best money could buy.
I gave you a roof. I gave you food. And literally, Hearth has to like pay for those things in order. I gave you. You're allowed to take a break from your duties, like things like that are owed, and that's something it's like feeding your children is not a favor. Like if you're, one of those kind of things. Yeah. So, but I absolutely agree that that's something that like we hear a lot from the wealthy in terms of expectations. Inga mentions that there is a dwarf living as a fish in the woods named Andvari. Never thought I'd say something like that. Who has a hoard of gold large enough to cover the rug. They catch Andvari and get him to reveal the location of his hoard. They also take his cursed ring. They use the treasure to pay the Were-Guild and use the Skofnung stone to heal Blitz. So later that night, Alderman throws a party, but the curse of the ring causes him to go crazy and start accusing the guests of trying to steal his treasure. He summons water spirits to attack everyone. Our gang flees, and they end up back in Midgard.
Again, another great set piece here with the party and all that.
Yeah.
It's just, I just really like how all the different places feel.
Yeah.
Like they feel distinct and
Yeah.
And I really do think it helps that we know all of these places really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even like just like a creek in the backwoods of like, I can envision that.
Yeah.
Like, I know what kind of like a summery, woodsy creek looks like. Like it's muddy and swampy. It's not really a river. We don't, aside from the Muddy Charles, we don't really have those here. So it's just like a very specific kind of feeling. And then you parallel that and the piece of that the elves should find good and kind with like the luxury and that turning violent and gross. And
I also like that Alderman like looks different, that he's like very, very, I don't know if you guys have seen, I actually saw like a drawing of him and I was like, I liked having that image in my head because he looks much more inhuman compared to someone like Hearth.
Yeah. And boy, is he the worst example of an inhuman-esque person.
Yep.
I also like the fact that the curse was pretty fast. Like, we didn't wait too long. And the pacing of this was good.
Yeah.
Like, this was a very well-paced book as well.
Yeah.
Well, and I also think it's interesting because, like, you hate Mr. Halderman, but, like, what they did isn't great either.
Yeah.
Like, and so, like, I understand that, like, if I was Hearth, even though I hate my dad and I have every reason to, I would still be like, oh, that's not great.
Well, he tries to keep his father from doing it. And it's just like nothing is ever enough for him. And the way his dad, I forgot to mention, like the way his dad like knows sign language, but refuses to use it or acknowledge it was just like so evil in a very specific way that it just like gets...
Oh.
Right, because it doesn't feel cartoonish ever. He learned sign language so he could communicate with his son and then uses that as like a punishment thing to twist around.
I also really like that Hearth not being able to hear at the scene with the water spirits was actually like a superpower for him. And I really like that he's just getting better at magic and everything too. I thought that was just a fun thing. And something that we skipped over because I didn't put it in the outline, but I wanted to mention, I really like the scene where Sam is praying.
Yeah.
And, I just, like I said, I really like the way that they bring Islam into this book. And I really like how important it is. Like, it's not just like, she's a Muslim. It's like, this is important to her.
Right.
And the way that Magnus honors that, like, so the way Magnus treats other people in general, like, I really like that, like, he feels guilty going back home to this big house in Valhalla, that like he would always go back and give stuff to the other homeless people, that he remembered that. Like, he's just like a thoughtful, empathetic person. And that really, I thought was really awesome.
But again, he's not perfect. He doesn't know everything. He's not sitting there giving us a lecture on Islam of like, look at what I learned. He's just like, she's letting me in and I'm letting you as the reader in on this as well. It's just very personable.
And he doesn't necessarily get it, but he gets that it matters to her. Like, because that's the other thing is I really like that they stick by like him also being atheist, which is very interesting. Like, I think all that's really cool.
That's also very grounding for like very soon where to where we are in the recap where Sam's like, I don't see them as gods. They're powerful beings and creatures. And like Magnus feels the same way. And so it's one of those things of like, well, of course, a Muslim person doesn't think they're gods. It's like, well, obviously, so does an atheist person. Like it's just one of those things of reframing it as like, Sam isn't othered in being alone and thinking of this like it. It is.
Chiron is also, Chiron also is like, God with a capital G. Who knows about that? Not me. I'm just Chiron. Jerk. Sorry, Dan. I saw Dan retweeted something about how Chiron was like, I hope Nico was eaten by monsters.
How did I forget that line?
I don't. Same here.
We're not Chiron stands
better
on this podcast.
Than him joining the enemy army.
Ass.
Well, he has a horse's rear, so there you go. All right, so Magnus meets Sam, Alex, and half-born Gunderson and Amir by the Sitco sign, our famous tourist attraction that's a gasoline ad. Magnus is able to heal Amir's mind so he can process all the Norse stuff going on. They are invited by Heimdall to walk upon the Bifrost. And he tells them that a mass of giants are discussing an alliance with Loki through the wedding of Thrym and Sam. Sam vows before Heimdall, as he is the guardian of the sacred marriage bed, that she will never marry or even pretend to marry anyone other than Ymir.
It's a lot for you to read. You're doing your camp.
Yeah.
This is a lot of words. They're hard, and I'm not used to saying them.
My favorite part about these set of scenes is not even in them. It's that later on, Alex has to tell Magnus that he was using his powers to help him.
Yeah.
Like, that was such a cool thing. And that like really won over Alex too, I thought was great.
Yeah. Because Magnus notices things about Alex that Alex is surprised that he notices.
Yeah.
And Alex does the same with Magnus. They have such a good, it's not
low-key chemistry.
Yeah.
Like it's just not in
Sorry, say that again.
Low-key chemistry. Oh crap.
No, you're totally right. Yeah.
No pun intended. Yeah. It's just not in our face. It just feels like the way that teenagers like get crushes on each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the way you kill things. Thanks. You do.
I like how you glow.
Yeah.
I don't know that this had happened in the book yet, but I want to mention it where Magnus says, like, actually, I hate that my power is healing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this also distinguishes him from Percy. But like, he says, because you watch people dying, and if you can't do anything about it, like that's your job to do.
Yeah.
And I felt I really appreciated him as his own character in that moment. I do think there are overlaps with Percy, but Magnus doesn't have the goofiness. Like,
he kind of does.
I mean,
he's got the banter and quippiness.
He's goofy, but he's not goofy in a callous way. And Percy definitely sometimes crosses into that. Percy's always well-intentioned, but there's bravado that Magnus just doesn't have.
Percy has like a bit of like a bad boy edge, whereas Magnus has absolutely none.
No edge. He's
when Alex eventually says like, "Oh, Magnus, like you pretend you're so tough on the outside, but you're just a softie." I was like, he does. He's like he's just a little puppy.
Yeah. I mean, I also think that this is a nice subversion of like a guy with healing powers. That's usually reserved for the girls, the caretakers, and
also certainly not the main character.
Yeah. It's like someone else on the team. Yeah.
And they managed. I was slightly frustrated by that in the first book, and I wasn't here.
Same. It was one of those things about the first book that I was like, I don't know if I but it totally worked in this
Pays
book.
Off. So while looking for the goat killer, Heimdall finds Utgard Lanes, and Magnus realizes the assassin was actually Utgard Loki. So I wasn't the biggest fan of Heimdall.
Me neither.
Yeah, me either.
This was the one that felt too... What year was this book released?
2016?
Yeah, it felt very 2010s. And
he references Vine.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. Like more than once.
You didn't make the right guess there, Rick. Sorry.
And just the sort of like, haha, selfies are funny. Yeah. But now it's like, no, it's just a way that it's just a form of communication now, like words.
Yeah.
If we don't take selfies now, we don't see our friends.
Also, he was one of those characters that I'm like, I don't want you to be incompetent.
Yeah, I agree.
Like it's not funny to me that you're incompetent.
Well, that's the problem again with the final set piece and final scene of like the action payoff, I guess, is the fact that like here Heimdall being like, I don't want to look at everything. Like that's one thing when they have to like cajole him, and the fact that again he's like witnessing the pledge of Sam to Ymir, like that, it's fine enough. Like it's not my favorite, but when he comes in with Thor and
Wagner. No.
Anyway, we'll say it later. But once he comes in there and he's like, "Let me take out my selfie stick now," like it's like now is not the time. Like we're reeling from something bad. So like this isn't the time for Heimdall to be goofy.
Well, that's the thing. So like you could also argue that Thor is incompetent, but
he's not.
Not.
He just farts.
Yeah, he's just like kind of a dummy, but he still is very capable. Whereas I don't know, like I just straight up don't want Heimdall to be the guardian of the universe.
Apollo. not the Apollo we love so much, but the Apollo from the original Percy Jackson books, or even Heroes of Olympus, where there's this sort of like really fine line between incompetence but also divinity.
Yeah.
And I feel like Apollo had that still, even in Heroes of Olympus. Like he was making mistakes. He was like, but he was still clearly a god.
Yeah.
Heimdall seems to honestly just be like some jerk who has a power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even I thought it was weird. I mean, I think it's supposed to be a character moment, but I just was definitely taken out by him agreeing the gods aren't really gods.
Yeah.
Like a god saying that
Apollo
weird.
wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
Apollo would not have said that.
Yeah.
Apollo would say like, I am the personification of something, because that's the other thing. Like we've gone through this with Apollo.
Yeah.
and we've gone through it.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. I had been thinking during the first book, because I don't know that much about Norse stuff, whether I was supposed to be taking these Norse gods like the Greek gods or like the Egyptian gods, because the Egyptian gods really, like, it's just pretty much said, like, they're not really God. Like, and that's just kind of accepted even by the people who follow them or whatever. You know, like, can they fight Thor? Like, is that something they could possibly do? I still don't really know.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Loki escaped. Are they able to fight Loki? Or is he just like all powerful and he can be 5 places at once and blah, like,
like I don't see how Heimdall rivals Loki in power, like at all. And they should. He should. He's an Aesir as well, and it's just like not anything. He's not anything like that.
Is Loki an Aesir? I don't actually know.
He's a giant.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, because Marvel gets into my head.
No, he is a giant.
Yeah, no, he's definitely a giant, but I wonder whether he's still also, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but even so, I mean, the other Aesir are powerful as well, or Aesir or whatever. But yeah, it's just Heimdall just doesn't match up.
No, he's a big deal.
Yeah. Maybe it's just, I do honestly think Marvel hurt this one.
I think so too.
Probably.
I'm like,
how do you go from Idris Elba
to this little twerp?
This sheep herder fellow?
And I think maybe one of my problems was also that I kept on picturing Idris Elba and then saying these ridiculous things. I was like, he would never say that. This is out of character, but it's out of character for Idris.
Yeah. I mean, this is just like Rick's MO of like underpowering certain characters.
Well, and it's funny because I didn't have this problem with Thor because I feel like I know Thor beyond the Marvel universe, so I can have space in my head for multiple versions more. Whereas with Heimdall, I'm like, I've only ever heard of Heimdall as Idris Elba.
But the thing is that, like, whatever the true myth of Heimdall is, smartphones were not incorporated in that. So just being like, look at my funny technology, being like the joke over and over again doesn't just. I don't see that is a Rick thing. Like that is not from source material. And therefore that not working for me, and that being his character of like weird and vain, but also just like not knowing how to read a room. I feel like I can blame that on Rick and just me not jiving with it. Yeah.
Like you said, though, it's very 2016 humor.
Yeah. Magnus and Alex sneak into Randolph's office and find a wedding invitation behind a photo of Bridal Veil Falls and suspect Randolph left them a clue. So this is actually the closest Randolph gets to like not being sad sack. Yeah. Sam flies with Hearth to Jotunheim while Magnus, Alex, and Blitz ride Stanley right into the shoestring of a giant named Tiny. Tiny points them in the direction of Utgard Lanes, but in order to have him vouch for them, he tells them they need to bring his giant bowling ball bag to the lanes by tomorrow morning. Try saying that 5 times
Bowling
fast.
ball bag.
Bring his giant bowling ball bag. Blitz gets the idea to give the bag a name and enchant it to magically change size.
Super fun.
Quality Blitz.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't get nearly as much Blitz, but what we got was very good.
Yeah. He's like more skilled than he was in book one. Same deal with Hearth. He has more skills and he's the centerpiece.
I can't even really tell you why I enjoyed the scene as much as I did.
Yeah.
I just was like, he's smart. Alex and Magnus are having a talk. Jack's being helpful.
Jack is a needle.
I love Jack. Can we put Jack on the heroes list? I love Jack so much.
That's fair.
He's such a good guy.
Yeah. What a nice guy.
After the bag is finished, they travel to Utgard Lanes and meet up with Utgard Loki, Sam, and Hearth. Utgard Loki explains that even though he wants to prevent Loki's plan, the 5 of them must prove themselves to the other giants by performing impressive feats. I appreciate that. He's not just saying, like, this is for my entertainment because I pull the strings. He's like, to keep you alive, you need to end me alive. I like me being alive and in charge, but
And Magnus is like, you must not be a very good king then. and a good Loki is just like, you don't know anything about leadership. I do not lead based on whatever. I lead based on my people, and all of them are stronger than me alone. That's just how it is, Magnus Chase. It was a great moment. And again, I think was a great sort of distinction between Magnus and some of the other characters who were supposed to look to as leaders. We're never supposed to look at Magnus and think a king of men. And I appreciate that.
Yeah. It's interesting because I wouldn't have agreed with you from book 1, but I do feel like that from book 2.
Yeah.
Because book 1 really much was like, he has been chosen, blah, blah, blah. He's the one who will get it. He has to lead the quest to blah, blah, blah. But yeah, no, I definitely agree that he's just one of the guys.
This book feels like we're getting, he's our point of view, but he's not the main character.
Yeah.
And I am so okay with that.
Yeah.
It just feels like more of a democracy.
Yeah.
There is no one main character.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing I wrote in my notes about this was that, you know, we often talk about like, how was the protagonist's arc and blah, blah. And there isn't really one. It's like transitionary. And that's kind of okay because it is treating this as a part, not as much of a individual book, but I do feel like it's part 1 of 2 kind of. It sets up a lot of interesting character things for him. I think that the way he interacts with Alex, him learning about Alex, that's all interesting. I think him struggling with family and what to do about Randolph and all that stuff, that sets up interesting. So like there's a lot going on, but I wouldn't necessarily say that he like changes drastically from the beginning to the end of the book.
Yeah. I agree.
So Sam throws an axe at Fear, Hearth is a pinball wizard, and Blitz gives an Uggo a makeover. Love it. This is so
everything. Pinball. Sam is such a badass. I love Sam.
Yeah. All of them having to do their thing, but also like the twist on the thing I thought was great.
Well, the fact that, I mean, Sam is the one who's like explaining to them that they're gonna try to trick you. And also just the fact that she and Hearth had their bonding time where they like reconciled to survive the previous 24 hours was also like, I didn't need to see them going through that. But hearing about it, I'm like, I can picture this. This is good, sad, frustrating, you know, all the things.
This might be like the best set piece ever.
I agree.
Yeah.
If we were to rank set pieces, I can't think of one I mean, I probably could if I really thought.
But it's definitely in the top 5.
There. Yeah. It's so entertaining. So Magnus and Alex take on the giants in bowling. At first, they are unable to hit the pins because there is a portal to Midgard in front of their pins. But they manage to close it and beat the giants. Utgard Loki reveals that Loki intends to free himself with this Skofnung sword, since having the sword as the bride price means that it will go to the father of the bride. Stupid patriarchy. Our gang finds themselves summoned by the goddess Siv. Apparently it's with a V in pronunciation. Who knew?
Yeah.
To her and Thor's palace. I'm going to say Sif a lot because that's how it's written.
Just say Sif.
Okay.
I mean,
the lady Sif.
She gives Hearth wooden runes, but warns him that he will one day have to acquire the inheritance rune to fully unlock his potential.
So cool.
So we didn't talk about this too much in Alfheim, but I thought it was really interesting, the mechanic of like, he gave up that rune and now it's like an incomplete alphabet and he has to like reclaim it.
And this very much is the Utgard Loki of book 1.
Exactly. Yeah. Like we know this will follow up in the third book, but this is different from like the Randolph cliffhanger or the Loki wife, scary red-eye lady cliffhanger too, because it's just like we understand from early on that this is his unfinished business.
Yeah. I really also love that, okay, there's this system of magic and it's called runes. And sometimes you learn about runes and that's fun. And I actually got a book about runes yesterday because I was very interested in them. But
was it ruined?
No.
But we don't have to go through like the whole system like we do with the Kane Chronicles. Yeah.
I agree. I will say I didn't love Sif. I feel like there was kind of telling and not showing because the shift that Sam and Alex have is like pretty like 180, and I didn't really get how that happened. I guess a lot of it was off screen, but like it was just kind of like we were supposed to see the multidimensionality of Sif, and I just like feel like I didn't get enough actual time with her to get that as much as I was being told that, oh, she's more than you think she is.
Yeah. I agree. I'm also okay with it because we have Magnus as the point of view character.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of cool with Sif like going behind the scenes with Alex and Sam and having like girl time.
Mm-hmm.
And that especially that thing with Alex where Sif is like, I guess we've both learned that first looks can be deceiving. And I thought that was a helpful thing to have heard from Rick, who spent a lot of those early books being like, if you're really pretty, then but with makeup, you're suspicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Like, I didn't need that. Like, that was enough for me, but I kind of also agree that like Sif being like just another example of a like kind of vapid to a degree because we had that with Freya.
Yeah.
So it's like, but Sif is different. So I just wish we had a little bit more of how she's different.
Well, because that's the thing is the fact that they had a nice time with her doesn't take away from the fact that she was like, you're the help, and like
But then she's like, I also realized, and she calls them friends.
But based on what?
Why? I don't know. This book is full of mystery.
Her time with Sam and Alex.
It's totally true.
Messy.
It's so valid.
Yeah. You're
I feel like he wanted to write more and then was like, no, it just doesn't. Yeah.
I will say my favorite part of all of this is giving the golden garrote.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So they go down to Thor's man cave and they explain that Mjolnir is to be used as the morning after gift.
Gross.
That's a weird way of saying that.
Organ gifu.
There were some things you had to tiptoe around this time.
Yeah, I know. Well, I was thinking about how I was like, I don't know whether he could address Reyna's like being asexual but romantic. Like, I don't know how he'd do that. And then we were reading this and I was like, oh, Rick. What?
So it's a morning after the wedding gift in the Earth giant Thrym's marriage to Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Thor says that the bride has the right to insist that the gift be summoned in order to bless the ceremony. Alex decides to pose as Sam so that she can keep her vow, and because Alex believes that Alex can resist Loki's control. So this is where we find out that Alex has been like learning how to resist Loki, and like the reason that Alex is so free to use shapeshifting is because that helps Alex resist the becoming like Loki. So there's all this interesting stuff, whereas Sam is like, I won't use anything from Loki, and that's why she's more susceptible to him. I feel like this was a little bit of a late in the game like revelation.
I kind of disagree.
Okay.
Alex has just been around for such a short amount of time compared to Sam that for me it feels fine.
But it's also, this is like so core to who Alex is and everything that we've seen of Alex up to this point, so it's not a surprise. It's not like a reveal to me necessarily.
Yeah, I feel like I wish we'd seen actually more of Alex shapeshifting.
Yeah,
like Alex wasn't doing it like all the time.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I just kind of wish that it was like, and the few times that Alex did shapeshift, Sam's like, oh God, it's happening too much, and it's like, but not really. Like, I don't know. I just wish it was like to the nth degree, so it really felt like
at the same time, though, like Alex turned into all the different animals during the Utgard lanes and stuff.
Not all the different animals, just a few.
At least 3.
The elephant.
There was something before the elephant. I don't remember. A gorilla,
bear, maybe.
There was a bear, definitely a bear. Alex was a gorilla at some point.
Yeah.
It's later. It's when they are all fighting in the wedding sequence, and Alex has the garrote. I think, right? And
the gorilla garrote.
Yeah, the gorilla garrote.
And obviously, when Alex dies too, there's some shapeshift. It's just one of those things where I just personally wanted it.
Oh, I was very confused. When did Alex die?
Well, in the beginning, the reason Alex is here.
Yeah.
Okay. Thor gives them his chariot to ride to the wedding. He explains he can see through Otis and Marvin's eyes, and that when the hammer is summoned, Dan is shaking his head. When the hammer is summoned, he will lead a squad of gods and Heryi to retrieve the hammer and slaughter the giants.
I have to say, I really like Thor.
Me too.
Which is a victory because I don't like fart jokes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I really do. I like Thor.
Yeah.
He threaded that needle,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Good one. Magnus, Sam, and Alex are led into the giant's lair by Princess Thringa. The giants reveal that the location for the actual ceremony is in Loki's cavern. Loki asks Alex to come forward to confirm that the bride is Sam. Alex transforms to look like Sam, and the ceremony gets underway. I was really viscerally affected by the description of Loki and his emaciated body, and yes, his wife, whose name is not defined, is Sigmund or
Sigmund. Singa? Is that what we said?
Let's call her
Sigyn.
Yeah, all of this is just very upsetting, and I do feel bad for him again, but then he has this evil, devious plan. I'm like, never mind, I don't want to feel bad for you.
Yeah.
I think, obviously I tried to make this whole section as short as possible in the recap, but there's a lot of mood within all this section. And
cheers.
Definitely,
and cheers, yeah. Magnus hands Randolph the Skofnung sword, so Thor's hammer will be revealed. Also, he gets a weird feeling from Loki's wife. When the hammer is revealed, Alex attacks Thrym. Magnus is surrounded by earth giants, and Loki freezes Sam. Apparently, he was trying to kill her.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
And that this was Sam using those powers. So that's awful. And again, goes back to Loki is an abusive parent. Yeah. He's willing to kill Sam.
He goes beyond that at that.
Yeah, yes.
He ventures into Nero territory.
Nero town. Loki orders Randolph to draw the sword despite its rule on women being present, to cut him free before the blade disappears. Hearth, Blitz, TJ, Mallory, and Halfborn arrive to help, but Randolph manages to sever Loki's bonds, freeing him.
So, this is the scene that I take the most issue with and that I try to be nice to because I love the rest of the book so much. I just felt that it was a little too chaotic. I felt like it was kind of insane that Rick didn't make me believe that Randolph would have the ability in time to strike, use the stone, strike, use the stone. He had to do it that takes so long, and nobody was able to do anything that entire time.
They're just fighting off giants the rest of that time.
And it's just Alex actually, the plan worked and it didn't matter. Alex, the fact that Alex actually was able to trick Loki, and
they got the hammer up.
They did.
They got the hammer. If they hadn't done that, I don't.
That wasn't enough to do anything. The main goal is to stop Loki, isn't it?
And they're just the only reason they're able to get Thor there to care is because it's to return.
I'm just all these machinations and movements and plans and stuff, and then Magnus just hands over the sword.
Yeah,
and, and doesn't even end up fighting his uncle that much. It should be that the heroes are good enough that then the villains have to be even better to get over and
they're just distracted by fighting giants, and Magnus's time is taken fighting Thringa, who just goes into it. These weren't interesting. Okay,
giants. Sorry, I just want to say that we don't enjoy books where the climax is fighting giants.
That's fair. That's true.
But Utgard's good.
But they don't really fight him.
I know. I'm just saying.
They get along with him okay.
I thought Thringa was good.
Yeah.
But even, I feel in a way, so the whole thing is Thrym and Thringa, but mostly Thringa was vengeance for our fallen, grandfather or whatever. But even that doesn't really matter. It doesn't, what is the greater point here?
It doesn't actually lead really anywhere.
Yeah.
It just causes more chaos.
Yeah. It's just there was too much. I wanted more Loki-centric fighting, I guess.
Yeah, the thing I didn't think Thrym and Thringer were bad. It's just they weren't
threatening.
They weren't good enough for the climax.
They're not giants never are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and it's also we met them 78% way through the book. So it's
yeah. Well, but also we know that Thringa's plan is I don't care about my brother. I'll kill him too.
Yeah.
And it's so I'm not rooting for you either. I don't care about your machinations either.
Well, it's a lot of a lot of buildup, and then things go like exactly as you expect them to go.
Yeah.
Not well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the gods arrive before Loki can attack. So he opens a hole in the ground and falls in along with his wife and Randolph, who's melting, by the way. Magnus tries to save his uncle, but he wants to die and see his family again. The god Vidar uses his giant shoe to squash Thrym, while Thor retrieves Mjolnir and obliterates Thringa. Magnus, Sam, Alex, Blitz, and Hearth are summoned to Helgi's office. Oh, so there's also a huge celebration in Valhalla, except our group is not happy about it.
And Thor's like, everything worked out. I have my hammer.
My Mimi.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I want to hate Thor for this, but like, I can't.
I really like Thor.
So in Helgi's office, he informs them that Loki has gone to the eastern shores to finish constructing Naglfar. Nail ship, yes. And they must put him back in chains. And Ratatosk is scary and licking a glass window pane, which is, again, good comedic relief.
Another oddity here. He goes, Helgi is who they're talking to?
Yeah.
I always get Helgi and the bellhop guy confused.
Mm-hmm.
Helgi's like, you guys are the ones who let him free, so you're the ones who are going to have to go on the mission to get him back. And I'm like, why isn't the rest of Floor 19 in this scene? They were also there when that happened.
Huh.
I don't know. Why isn't Thor there?
That's a good question.
Thor's going to get sent to Earth as a mortal and fall in love with him.
Why aren't Otis and Marvin there? They didn't communicate eye-wise enough. Fast enough. That was so weird. Yeah. So the next day, Magnus meets Sam and learns they must travel by sea to the old Viking lands of Scandinavia. After this mission is complete, Sam intends to resign from the Valkyrie.
How do you feel about that?
Sad, but understanding. Like, she needs to graduate to the other things. But also, her whole thing is, like, choosing to be Odin's, like, right-hand Valkyrie. And the fact that, like, in the next book, which is only, like, a month later, she's already like, I'm going to quit the Valkyrie.
I think it's, like, 3 months later, but I get what you're saying, I think it would have made more sense for her to be like, I'm going to take a sabbatical until I finish college or something like that. Yeah, it does feel like again, if this was a pentology, I would feel like it was earned more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I agree.
Magnus meets up with Annabeth in New London, Connecticut,
where I went to college. Oh my goodness.
This is just your book.
Yeah. I could not believe that they went to New London. That was friggin' awesome.
Because it's halfway between New York and Boston. It's so cute.
I know it is.
After telling Annabeth about his mission and making it clear that he has trouble with sea gods, Annabeth agrees to help and says it's time for Magnus to meet Percy. The end.
Very happy about that.
Yeah. Exciting.
Cute.
Very good, very good. All right. Are we getting ranking now?
So first, feedback. Like we mentioned in part 1, we're going to do a dedicated feedback episode after Magnus Chase is over. But keep sending stuff in. If you do want to send stuff in, you can do so at our podcast feedback at gmail.com. You can comment on the YouTube version of this or tweet at Ranking Rick Riordan. Ranking Riordan.
Yep.
Ranking Riordan.
Thank the people who reviewed us.
Yes. Also, if you want to send us reviews, you can do so at lovethepodcast.com/Riordan. Thank you so much for all the incredible Spotify ratings and andas on Audible.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Let's be frank, it's time to rank. This one's good, but that one stank. Ranking Rick Riordan.
Got pretty classy at the end.
Yeah. Smooth jazz.
Best hero. Gunilla, Hearthstone, Blitzen, Magnus, and Samira. Nominee, Alex.
I would also like to nominate Jack.
Okay.
All right.
Are we still keeping Magnus over Sam?
Under
Sam.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, what did he do? He handed a sword to a villain. He's a good guy.
Saved her boyfriend.
Okay, but what did she do? Think of all the things Sam did.
Some axes around.
She killed Fear.
She killed Fear. That was really cool.
Really well.
Okay. Sam tried to. Okay, so what about this?
Mm-hmm.
We put Alex as number 1.
Yes.
And Sam below Magnus. And that way Magnus still isn't number one.
Honestly, I'm fine with this list.
I am too.
All right,
cool.
great.
We can have Magnus be number 3. I'm okay with
All
that.
right. And Jack,
We'll go
less
Below
heroic.
Hearthstone.
Yeah, between Gunilla and Hearthstone.
Great.
So the list now from least to best: Gunilla, Jack, Hearthstone, Blitzen, Magnus, Samira, Alex. Are we still sticking with Blitzen over Hearthstone?
For now, I think that's going to change in the next book.
Okay.
I have a sneaking suspicion. But so far, I feel like Blitzen has done...
Yeah.
Yeah. It takes
He made
courage.
a bag, guys.
Yeah. Well, it takes courage to like stand up to
That's true.
your abusers,
Yeah.
but I still feel like there's like Hearthstone. They're so equal right
Yeah.
now that it's just
Yeah.
like it doesn't like they're on such
Hearthstone,
equal.
we have that. We know exactly what he needs to be such a badass.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I feel like we just
Get
have to
that
wait.
rune. Get
Also,
that
I
rune.
was so glad because I don't know if you remember the last podcast. I was like, he's not wearing the candy stripe.
Oh my gosh,
anyway.
yeah,
But
yeah,
then
yeah.
he puts it on later. And it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Rick teased us with that one.
All right, best god from least to best: Ran, Frey, Mimir, Hel, Freya, Thor, Odin, Loki. Nominees: Sif and Heimdall.
Heimdall at the bottom.
Yeah, sure.
What about Vidar? Do we want to nominate?
I didn't feel like he did enough, but
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can if you want.
If he features again. you
yeah,
know.
I think we'll see them again.
Yeah,
I want to move Thor above Odin.
I agree.
Okay. What do we still want Loki to be in the best god list?
No, we don't.
At this
Okay.
point, yeah. No.
Yeah, I don't think we do either.
Bye, Loki. You've been booted.
Civ between Freya and Odin.
That high, huh?
Well, yeah, but what would we put her below Freya?
I think so.
I'm okay with that, I guess. but-
I guess she does
okay,
more than
I think
Freya
you
does.
should put her over Freya, but then I think you should move Mimir over both of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know,
Mimir has more of a hand in things.
I did
We
expect.
forgot about the bubble bath scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is fun.
I did expect to see more of Mimir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the list now stands: Heimdall, Ran, Frey, Hel, Freya, Sif, Mimir, Odin, and Thor.
Yeah.
All right, best baddie: Utgard Loki, Surt, Loki, Fenris Rolf.
See how you like reading these Norse things?
And then nominees: Randolph Chase, Mr. Alderman, Thrym and Thringa.
All right. So first things first, Loki number 1.
Yeah. Now, do you agree with me with putting Randolph in this list?
Yeah.
Okay.
His selfishness brought him here.
Yeah. He's a complex villain, but
Yeah.
at the end of
He's
the
a
day,
baddie.
he freed Loki.
Yeah.
So where do we want to put Randolph? I'd put him between Fenris and Loki.
I would put him between Fenris and
Cert. Yeah,
Okay.
that's what
Just
I would do.
by
That's
nature
fine.
of him not actually having a lot of power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
He's sort of minion-y still.
Yeah.
Mhm. Alderman. I mean, he's got to go.
Yeah, I think
high.
right below Loki.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
He's villainous.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then Thrym. I don't even know if I want Thrym.
No, Thrym doesn't.
Let's just do
He's- whatever.
Thringa.
Thringa should be at the bottom, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
I think
And then do we
all
want
agree.
to change where Utgard is?
He's interesting, but he acts as a good guy-ish.
Yeah, but that's in some ways what makes him an interesting
Yeah.
baddie, right? I would put him over Cert at least.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cert was just like, kill, kill, kill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Utgard is like, don't kill this particular person.
Not right now.
Yes.
Maybe later. All right, good?
Yep.
Thringa, Cert, Utgard, Loki, Randolph Chase, Fenris Wolf, Mr. Alderman, and the Loki. I feel like I'm going to have different thoughts next time, but we'll come back to
Yeah.
that. All right. Best real world locale, Boston. And then I don't even know if you guys want to specifically go into Provincetown and Bridal Veil Fall.
You didn't put Wellesley.
Well, that wouldn't.
Technically, I didn't go there, but
You're right.
I think we should just stick to just being
Yeah.
Boston.
Yeah, I mean, there really wasn't enough.
They didn't do that much.
No, they
in
didn't.
town.
They
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the
Can
real
I
stuff.
actually say something? So about Alex. So Alex talks about first of all, Alex compliments Anna's Taqueria.
Oh,
So
Yes, I highlighted
locals,
that.
Hey, yeah, endorsement. Order from there like every 2 weeks. But also, Alex talks about having a pottery studio in Brookline Village, and that is literally just across the street, and I can see it from my office window at work. So I'm like, I know Rick doesn't name the specific one, but there's only one there.
Yep.
So I just thought that was kind of a funny, like,
That's awesome.
I know what he's talking about.
I forgot to ask you because I saw that and I was like, Olga will know.
I do. I get coffee next to there.
Ooh. All right, let's get to the big kahuna. Book ranking. Starting at the bottom. Hidden Oracle, Sea of Monsters, Red Pyramid, Lost Hero, Tyrant's Tomb, Sword of Summer, Titan's Curse, Son of Neptune, Serpent's Shadow, Blood of Olympus, Lightning Thief, Battle of Labyrinth, Battle of the Burning Maze, Throne of Fire, Last Olympian, Mark of Athena, Dark Prophecy, House of Hades, and Tower of Nero. This is an interesting one to rank.
Yeah, it really is. Can I say I want to put it right below Last Olympian, which is really high. Maybe I want to put it right below Throne of Fire, but that's the general area.
Interesting. I would put it right below Battle of the Labyrinth.
I would put it. Okay, so I'm thinking about maybe changing some stuff.
Is that why there's a
you
bunch
should
of
be
bold?
higher?
Yeah, I put some stuff in bold. The bold stuff was at the time where I thought it should be within that section.
Okay. Because I thought that was a mistake.
So I think what we should do is I think Burning Maze should go over Throne of Fire, and then Hammer of Thor should go under Throne of Fire.
Okay.
All right, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
We're good with that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Not much arguing this time.
Yeah.
I mean, I was struggling because I do think there's totally an argument that Lightning Thief and Battle of the Labyrinth are better than this book.
Yeah.
But
Alex is so good.
Yeah.
Alex Asgard Lanes is so fun.
Yeah.
And what's my complaint about this book? You know?
yeah.
The action scene of the wedding is messy.
It's not
Yeah.
even, I can't even call it subpar. It's just not everything I could ever hope.
Well, I'll say, I mean, the other thing on the flip side, we talked about this having some of the best set pieces ever. Battle of the Labyrinth, I think, would
Is the
probably
other one.
number 2.
Mhm.
But I feel like I'm not fair to Battle of the Labyrinth. I almost want to read it again because the main thing I remember from Battle of the Labyrinth is how annoying Annabeth is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Legit, I think what we should do is we read the last book in Magnus Chase,
Yep.
and then before we record anything new in the fall, we reread, just like Olga said, we reread all of these books
In
in the
ranking order.
and we come up with whether we think the ranking is good or not. We have that as a recap episode, and then we go into Riordan Presents.
Sure.
I totally didn't spend $100 on books recently that maybe I'll read it, finish reading in time for this. But yeah,
All right.
it was my idea.
You
I
have
should
no
stand
free
by
time.
it. No.
You are just a part of this podcast. We read nothing else.
When am I supposed to plan a wedding? Says I say to the person planning a wedding.
So the new top 10 I will read. Lightning Thief, Battle of the Labyrinth, Hammer of Thor, Throne of Fire, Burning Maze, Last Olympian, Mark of Athena, Dark Prophecy, House of Hades, Tower of Nero.
Yeah.
I'm good with this.
We feel good about this?
Yep.
Feel good for now. We'll see what happens after the third book, which is usually when we shuffle things up majorly.
Yeah.
So
I really hope that Rick nails it because, you know, I think he has 50-50 on finales.
Yeah.
And it's harder to do a finale to a trilogy, I feel like, in some ways.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it'll be hard because we did do this after Apollo,
Yeah.
and ending our last Riordan book with Tower of Nero. Well, I mean, who knows? That was a contentious episode.
But isn't that like, wouldn't that have been the pinnacle?
Yeah. So yeah, I hope it's
I didn't expect to regret not doing Apollo last, but I feel like that would have been cool. But I really enjoy Magnus Chase at
It's
this point.
fun.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. It feels like a breath. And I kind of like the fact that we can compare it to Apollo.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if Apollo was the last thing we read, I feel like we would put it on an even higher pedestal.
Mm.
You're right.
And because that would be it. Where at least now I feel like we do still have like a semblance of like, this was not the best part of X, Y, or Z book in that pentology.
Yeah.
So I think this is a different way of thinking about that.
Yeah.
I'm really, really enjoying what I've read so far of book 3, I will say.
That's good.
Obviously, it could go really off the rails in the last third. But so
let's
far,
not manifest that.
So far, very happy. And I can't wait to talk about that when we get to it. Our general plan for the upcoming schedule is that we will do Ship of the Dead, and then we'll probably go into our Magnus Chase review / ranking it with everything else, all that stuff. And then we will do our shipping episode, and then we will do a big feedback thing.
Extravaganza.
And I don't think I've ever actually said on the podcast that then we are going to go into a hiatus.
Yes.
And come back probably in the fall. We'll maybe do some Rick Riordan Presents. Maybe we'll do Lightning Thief again. Maybe we'll do the musical. And
Harry Potter versus Percy.
Yes,
Battle
that's
to
possible. And then obviously, I don't know what's going to be going on with all the TV show and everything. Like, if there's big TV show news, even if we're on a hiatus, we'll come back and talk about it. But yeah, that's pretty much the plan.
Oh, there's like a not finish line because again, it'll be a hiatus, but like. What?
I know. I can't. This is our last book, you guys.
21 books.
Dang.
Gotta reread them all.
Yeah. Daughter of the Deep included?
I mean...
It's not in the Riordanverse.
It's not in the Riordanverse. The problem with... I mean, I would love to have Daughter of the Deep included in all these ranking things, but if at that point, then I'm like, well, then we have to do like 39 clues and like the other stuff he's done. And All right, guys. Thank you for listening, and may the gods be ever in your favor.
Bye-bye.